anyways, hi. Do you
Hi,
want to
Diva.
introduce yourself? Thank you so
Yes.
much for coming on.
No, thank you,
Means so much.
Of
I'm
course.
so very excited.
Me too. My name is Kaitlyn. I am a model. I'm a content creator, based here in Sydney. I am from Brisbane.
Both Brisbane girls.
We're Queensland girls. We're Queensland girls. And I feel like we were talking about this the other day
What?
when most of our friendship group or like the
From-
people we know are from Queensland or
Yeah.
not from Sydney.
On it, like I even spoke to someone yesterday and we
Yeah.
were like, no offense to Sydney people, but I feel like they're just kind of like a special breed, and more in the sense that I think people here are a lot more closed off, which
Yeah.
I guess also makes sense because it's kind of and sometimes in the world that we're in, that at times it can be very transactional.
Yeah.
But usually the people who are more open
Yeah.
aren't from the city.
No, and I also feel like it's because like we have all consciously made a choice to move and therefore you have no choice but to put yourself out
Yeah.
there. So it's almost like we are all more open to making new connections.
my
Whereas
God.
like I guess if you're born and raised in Sydney, you
Yeah.
live in Sydney, then you have your local, you have your go-to, you have your high school friend group or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So there's not as much need, I guess, to go out there.
The only thing I'll say though is I feel like whenever I go back like home to Brizzy and say I'm driving or just kind of like walking around, I do feel like people are nicer. Like
Yes.
people don't get as easily like pissed off compared to here. It's like you're literally at the lights for 2 seconds and someone
Yeah.
is like beep, like if you don't go. And
Yeah.
actually yesterday I was like walking and Tamika just
Yeah.
is about to go to LA, but I was going to just have some like dinner with her. And this guy, I was like walking. I was on my phone, but it was kind of like I was looking at the directions and I was a bit distracted.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do work, which I feel like lots of people do this where they're on their phones and blah blah blah. But this guy literally is walking, literally is about like fucking about to like take me out, like went like that, like just bumped into me. And usually it's like if you bump into someone, you'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But I literally could have fallen on the ground and that motherfucker would not have stopped to be
Well,
like.
but I feel like that's just like general politeness.
It was
You know what I
so
mean?
weird. Like I was like he literally like ran into me.
I'm good on
It could
that.
have been also my fault, but
But it's also like, what? No, I'm good.
Like literally.
I'm good on that.
Anyways, I digress.
We digress.
But I would love to know about your childhood.
Yes.
And you growing up and what you were like as a child and like your earliest memories.
Yeah.
I just asked you 5 questions, but
No, but I love that. All wrapped into one with
Oh.
a little bow on top, my love. Okay,
Yeah.
so my childhood, I have very fond memories of. Like, so born and raised in Brisbane, suburban, middle class, have both my parents are married, still very in love. So like I grew up in a house that had so much love, which was such
Yeah.
a beautiful thing.
wow.
I have always been like, I've always found so much comfort in solitude. And it's really interesting because going back to my childhood, I've noticed that as well. Like I'll have little memories pop up of like playing in primary school and it's me, it's me by myself.
Actually, why is this so you like coded? Because Kaitlyn, you would literally see Kaitlyn and have like the best dinner, be like, oh my God, dear now, blah, blah, blah. And then this girl will literally just like fall off the face of the earth for a month. And then she'll be like, oh yeah, I went to New Zealand.
Yeah.
I did this. And I'll be like, whoa, I didn't even know that. Or at times
Yeah.
you have to message you and be like, hey,
Are you alive?
Like, or G. And you're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just chilling.
No, I feel so much comfort in my own company. And that's not saying that like I don't love and enjoy the company of others, but I think I just love going nonverbal. I love going nonverbal. I love having no contact. And I think I find a lot of peace and comfort in myself, which I don't think a lot of people can say that. Like
No.
a lot of, I've realized.
I can't say that. Like,
Yeah.
I have my moments, but I think that I distract I love being around people, but I also think I distract myself by being around people. And sometimes I struggle to just sit like as emotional and open as I am, I struggle to sit in the sadness,
Yeah.
whatever that may be.
No, I feel that. Whereas I'm almost the opposite where if I'm feeling sad or heavy, like I will sit in that. and really soak it in, but almost maybe for too long, where it's
Yeah.
like I'm just so deep in it that it's happening. Yeah.
100%.
But yeah, I feel like the older I've gotten and the more I've grown into adulthood, the more I've realized that like not a lot of people can be by themselves, and not a lot of people can just like sit with themselves and be with themselves. So it's definitely something that I try to lean into and not take for granted. But yeah, as a kid, I was a fucking loner. Like I was in the playground by myself, girl, doing my own thing, and I ate it up. Like I loved it. Me in high school, I had this massive group of friends.
Yeah.
But if I didn't, like, if my social battery was low, like, I'd go to the library and I'd sit by myself. I'd be like, yeah, see you guys. Like, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll do whatever. No tea, no shade. But I'm just going to go chill out.
Do you feel like you also, like, was there an input from your family that made you kind of have that mindset? Or do you think kind of like that nature, nurture, like a debate? Or do you think that was, you've always kind of like been like that to be able to create those boundaries for yourself?
Yeah. I think, well, I think mum and dad being so in love, they've been dating since grade 9. My heart. So they've been together for so long.
What? That's
So,
insane.
no, isn't it insane?
Yeah.
So I think because they are each other's best friends.
Yeah.
It's always them two. So I think growing up, I saw that, but it was more like they didn't have a lot of friends themselves because it was like they were so close knit. So I think growing up, I kind of saw that and was like, oh, like it's not a necessity. Like you can lean on yourself and all of that.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm just a hyper independent person.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And I think that was so obvious throughout childhood as well.
Yeah.
I was definitely the child no one had to worry about, flying under the radar.
Yeah.
You know, head down, doing my schoolwork.
Did you ever get lonely? Or like what does the concept of even like, I guess, connectivity and like loneliness like mean to you?
I think, like, in all honesty, I think it's definitely something that I struggle with because it's almost like I am so good at being alone that therefore these walls have been built up.
Yeah.
That I find very hard to break down. And then it's almost like self-inflicted loneliness sometimes. And it can be really challenging, I guess. I feel sometimes a bit misunderstood, a bit unheard, but I like not to put the blame on myself, but I think it is, again, very self-inflicted because it's like, oh, I've conditioned myself to be this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Do you think, because I feel like I've known you for like a minute now, like I think since Brisbane, and because we also used to have like the same agency, which I still like adore, and like, I'm in touch with them. But I feel like it's only kind of recently that we've, like, because we've been in like similar social circle, but I feel like it's only kind of recently that I feel like we have like a personal relationship.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
But do you feel like now growing up and like being more in your 20s and stuff, when you think about when you're in like your 30s, 40s, how do you kind of see yourself like incorporating other people into your life, or do you kind of, or at the moment, me about to knock this over, you know,
all over your laptop as well.
Oh yeah, and the whole podcast is
grip it on tight, babe.
But yeah, like when you think of like social circles and stuff, how do you see that playing out in like your older years?
I think it's something that I like have to put a lot of intention towards. I don't think making friends or even keeping that, because friendship and relationships take effort, and I am a selfish person, and a lot of that time that effort's going to be directed back towards me. You know what I mean? Like if I've got spare energy and spare time to give, I'm going to be directing that back to myself. I've always been a really big believer that the only like you are there with yourself from the day you're born till the day you die. You know what I mean? People come and go. Your parents come and go, siblings, relationships, friends. But the relationship you have with yourself is the longest lasting one.
Yeah.
So I think that's always in the back of my mind. But I think growing up and continuing to grow up and getting older, it's something that I need to put conscious effort towards. But I've always dreamed of like having that like big friend group and like the big dinners and everything like that, which is why we were just talking about this.
More or less, we kind of have been like doing that. Especially, I feel like around last year, Christmas and New Year's.
That was so beautiful.
That was really, really beautiful. And like all the different birthdays, like we had our good friend Alice's birthday like 2 weeks ago and stuff. And like we said, obviously us, you know, moving here or living here or being in between, we've really put ourselves out there. And I feel like, especially last year, Christmas, looking around, and I think our friend Taj said this, but kind of felt like our chosen family, you know?
100%. And going back to what we were saying about Sydney sometimes being a little bit cold or a little bit cliquey, like it can be isolating. And so it's really nice to have that chosen family where it's like, oh, we've got each other.
Yeah.
And we all have that similar understanding of like, it can be pretty hard out there.
Yeah, 100%. What was like your relationship with like confidence when you were younger? Also, do you have any siblings?
I do. I have a younger brother. I do.
Doesn't mention that. It's just like, it's just kidding. My parents are in love.
I have a younger brother. Yeah. I have a younger brother. He is 22.
Yeah.
And he is like your typical Queensland tradie, like blokey bloke.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And he was always, bless him, the problem child. So I was the one that was like, you guys deal with that.
Yeah.
You do that.
Yeah.
And I'll go do me. So I think that's where that came from.
Yeah. Oh, I can understand that because you're kind of, I think sometimes when like my family dynamic, it's kind of like a bit all over the place. But I can imagine when sometimes you see like your siblings acting out, and obviously everyone has their own thing, but you kind of don't also want to put that stress on your parents. So that you're like,
absolutely.
I'll just take a seat back, or it doesn't feel like there's space for you to act out because someone else is.
Yeah, because like I'm not going to put any more on your plate. Like, mum, dad, you guys are busy. There's a lot going on for you. So like, I'm just going to go do my own.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. My relationship with confidence. So my extended family, my grandma, my aunties, my uncles, all of that stuff, all the women in my family are curvy women, right? And I was thinking about this in the car on the way over, and that was never important. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was never the focus. Body shaming wasn't necessarily a thing. So I feel like I grew up in a family full of like strong, outspoken women.
Yeah.
And the strength was what was celebrated or acknowledged rather than the body.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was something that was happening in my family, but not a lot outside of my family. So I really leaned into that. And I think that's where a lot of the confidence / borderline cockiness comes from.
Oh my God, you need it.
I feel like it's a fine line to walk confidence versus cockiness.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to be one or the other. And I think that's okay because you need to almost pick and choose for the situation. Yeah. But yeah, like my family's always celebrated my strength and my personality. So I think I've really leaned into that. And yeah, therefore become like super unapologetic and very confident. Yeah.
When you talk about, I feel like I can so relate to you saying that when you're kind of like in your inner circle or sort of like bubble or people that you surround yourself with, obviously you kind of have more of like a similar outlook on life. But sometimes when you're actually exposed to the wider world, you kind of go, oh wait, like most people don't think about, you know, or see the world in this way. When you were like growing up as a teenager, did you feel that there were times that you did have like external influence that like made you potentially question the way that you had viewed the world or what you thought was like, you know, just everybody's everybody?
Yeah, no, 100%. I went to an all-girls high school.
Did you?
I did.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel like we go, we're friends, and then you say all this stuff, and I'm like,
and then we're like, oh, I didn't know that about you.
I know, but it's like I feel like when I like see you, it's like we just talk about like what's happening now compared to like And that's also the other thing of making friends when you're an adult compared to like, say if I'd known you in school and blah, 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 you already know all of that, but you don't, unless it comes up in conversation of like siblings and blah, blah, you know. But yeah, you went to an all-girls school.
Yeah, I went to an all-girls high school, and that, like, I feel like being a teenage girl in general is just rough. So there was such this environment of breeding insecurity and bitchiness and body shaming and things like that. I just want to preface, I actually did have friends, and I do have friends, guys. Okay, like, I'm not this fucking loser. Like, I have friends. No, I swear.
You did. 100%. Yeah.
But I think because like I was so inward, I blocked a lot of it out. But in saying that, it's really hard to block all of it out, especially when I was 2-3 times bigger than the average girl. I've always been a big girl ever since I can remember. So I think a lot of, like, the one thing I struggle with the most is self-comparison. 100%. Not necessarily insecurity, but comparing myself to others. And so that definitely festered a lot when I was in high school. Yeah.
Did you, I guess also, I feel like within the media, especially like, you know, back then, there wasn't a lot of like healthy representation, you know? So it's kind of like, what do you, like, I feel like it would be hard. You go get Dolly magazine or Girlfriend magazine and blah, blah, blah. And obviously there's like other people and stuff, but in the Australian space, it's quite different. And especially Brisbane's quite like,
100%. I feel like it's very closed-minded.
Yeah.
And even back then, like, all the magazines and stuff, anything to do with the curved person immediately had something to do with weight loss. It was always about how much weight they've lost or how much weight they've gained, or like congratulating them for such an amazing weight loss or how their body has changed. And so that's definitely always like played like back of my mind as well. Yeah. But going into modeling, it's like really interesting that you mentioned there wasn't a lot of representation back then. I remember when it was actually probably only a couple years ago, someone asked me, did you always want to be a model?
Yeah.
And I actually sat down and I thought about it for a second, because my answer was always like, oh no, like I didn't really think about it. When I tell you my lock screen on my phone was Ashley Graham from like when I was like 13.
Wait, I have a story.
Okay, tell me.
In Milan, I think, start of last year. And I was, I know, and I was at the, like, Prada was having, like, a Reese, and they've got this, like gallery called the Fondue something Majiggy, I can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
And I'm in the cafeteria. And it's like, I love that cafeteria. I feel like today I've got like an
cafeteria.
I've got an accent on. Anyways, I'm in there with my sister, and I was like standing in line, and I hear this voice, and I go, "Why does that voice sound so familiar?" And I look to the side, and it's fucking Ashley Graham.
No, babe.
And I had this moment where I was like, and I wanted to be like, "Oh, should I go and be like, hey, like get it?" And then I didn't, just because I was like, I want her to think that I'm like one of them, you know, because
I'm not a fangirl, I'm one of you guys.
Yeah, like I'm just part, you know, because I think she was also went to go look at the Reese or something like that. Yeah. But I also love her, and it was crazy because when I was standing there, and obviously I felt like I felt her before I even heard or saw her.
She has such a presence. I've never met her,
energy,
but me being like, yes, girl, like, yes, girl. When I met her, oh my God, energy, yes. No, I've never met her in my life.
Yeah, I felt her presence.
Yeah.
And it was like just so weird because I've like watched, I think COVID days when she had a podcast or an interview thing. Like I watched that and her whole story. But yes, please continue.
Yeah, so I had her on my lock screen from when I was like 13 years old, and I specifically remember it. I'm pretty sure it was some sort of award show, red carpet, might have been the Oscars. But she was wearing this red dress, and it had like her boobs cut out, and it had like wire around her. It gagged me from a very young age. And so I always had her as my lock screen, and it wasn't until I was in my last year of uni that I got signed.
What was this? I don't know if I
really?
Feel like, tell me. Maybe I know it.
I'll jog your memory.
But also, they want to know as
They
well.
want to know.
They want to know.
And actually, the story is very quintessential Kaitlyn as well. Like,
Okay.
it's very me. And when I tell you, you'll be like,
Yeah.
that's immediately her. So one of my friends I went to high school with, Maddie, she started interning at Every before I even knew about it. So she was interning. I was doing my final placement for my nursing degree. I was in the emergency department. It was hectic. It was hectic. I've lived many lives. I've lived many lives.
Love that so much.
I've lived many lives. And so Maddie said to my agent, she was like, there was this girl in high school that I went to. We were like loose friends. Girl I went to high school with, I always remember she was always in front of a camera. Whenever there was a camera, she was in front of it. And Maddie and I went to a music festival maybe about a year or two prior. And you know, circa 2017, you'd get your photo in front of the stage, all of that stuff. So we were getting our photos, and she goes, I specifically remember you being like, blah, 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 like, like it was like a paid shoot.
Of course, it always is. It's always a photo op.
It is always a photo op. I've known that from a very young age.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. And so, yeah, she was like, there's this girl, she's a poser. She's in every photo. She knows what to do. And so I got a DM on Instagram. I had 200 followers. I like barely anything. Being like, hey, do you want to have a meeting? Immediately, I was like, scam.
Was this from Nikki? Or?
Yeah, from Nikki. And I was like, scam. No. Yeah. Anyway, we got talking and I made her work for it, girl. I made her work for it. It was probably I sat on the contract for about a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, are you sure? And I read through it over and over again because I'm like, what the hell am I signing into?
Yeah.
And then I think eventually I was like, you know what? I've got nothing to lose, because I think in my mind, I was like, is this even going to go anywhere? Like, what do I actually have to lose?
Yeah.
So I signed, and then, yeah, work started coming in pretty quick.
And then she was booked and busy.
Booked and busy. Which I'm very blessed.
But I think that's a good alternative to have. Like, I feel like obviously nowadays, you know, it feels like the market is so like saturated, and even back then. But I feel like a lot of the times when girls say at a contract, there is also, like, I feel like Every is a very special agency.
Yeah.
In the sense that they really do care about their girls and boys and everyone. Sorry. A Rihanna moment.
I was just going to say, like, that clip of Rihanna fighting for her fucking life. And she's like, of any gender non-conforming.
You know I love everyone. Like, you know.
She loves the non-binaries.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm dead. My face is
I don't know. I'm like blushing as well. Okay.
Yeah, Every is such a special agency in the relationship that they have with everyone that they represent. But I think sometimes with modeling, especially with modeling, that there's very much so this power imbalance, and kind of like, I think the agency, obviously if like the agency is invested in, you know, the person, then they're going to be like chasing. But I think a lot of the times people don't do their research and like, you know, read through these contracts, because some contracts can be pretty like fucked up, you know, and
absolutely
can lock you into something that you know, say if you change your mind and you're like, oh wait, like this agency isn't working for me, or potentially percentages, like there's a lot of like scams out there, and I feel like modeling is such or you can speak on this, that it's not a job that you just leave set and it ends there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of, once you start really doing it, it really weaves through every aspect of your life. You
100%.
know, how did you adjust from being a student and like working, you know, within, also doing nursing is so fucking like amazing. It's like sometimes like I have these moments working in fashion and beauty, which I still love, but I kind of go, fuck, we're not saving lives, whereas like you're actually saving lives. You know, what was that like?
The switch was crazy. And I feel like you're so right in saying that once you kind of start in the creative industries, it infiltrates almost every aspect of your life, whether you intend it to or not. Like, it just happens. And so I think I've always been really good at like putting on different hats for different things. So I was really good at going to work and being a nurse, and then there I was a nurse, and then I would go to work and be a model, and then there I was a model. But that only lasted a couple months, and then it started to integrate with each other, and I would go to the hospital and all my colleagues would be eating it up. They would be eating it up, and there would be swimsuit photos of me, and they'd be like, oh my God, I love what you posted. And I was like, oh, my colleague has seen my bare ass cheeks. Like, I love that. That's great. And then you start to think, oh, what have my patients seen? And like, and then it gets really messy. So I was doing both for a long time, and then I got so burnt out. So there was a lot of times where, because modeling picked up really quickly for me, and I feel really lucky, but juggling it with an almost full-time job was hectic.
I don't know how you did that.
So I'd do a night shift. So I would wake up at like 6 p.m. I'd been sleeping all day. I'd go to work at 11 p.m. I'd work all night. I'd finish at 7. Then I'd drive myself to the airport. I'd get on a plane. I'd fly to Melbourne. I'd work all day in Melbourne.
Kaitlyn.
And then I'd fly home.
Stop.
I know. And I don't recommend this for anyone to do. I don't, because you can't. Yes, just. But then I would end up being awake for like 26, 27 hours, go to sleep, and then you'd wake up the next day or the day after and you do it again. But I think the passion for modeling like overrode, like gave me the adrenaline to like, let's keep going. Actually, the passion for both things, because a lot of people ask me, would you ever go back to nursing? 100%. 100%. I miss it. I do.
What aspect do you miss?
I miss the connections I would make with my patients, and then also doing something really worthwhile. It was also one of the most humbling experiences in the best way. I worked in cancer care, and so I worked with a lot of palliative patients, and I worked with people that were dying a lot. And I think that just gave me a lot of perspective as a young woman, because I started working in the hospital when I was 17. So I started working as like an assistant nurse while I was studying. I graduated young, and I was just making beds and changing bedpans and all the nasty stuff. So I've been working in a hospital since I was 17. My mum had to sign my contract for me because I was underage. It was crazy. And then I was probably working there for about 6 or 7 years. I've lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this?
No, we were just talking about the jump between.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So like completely. The fact that was what you knew, and also there's kind of like I feel like a different, obviously, a different relationship with doing something like nursing, which is a very like service-based like job in terms of like looking after people, and then kind of that switch up of like I don't know how to put it, but like, you know, like you being like the person that everyone's like, oh, we've got to do this for you, like you know what I mean? Like, what was that like?
I think in general, no, it does, because I think in general I'm a very giving person, so sometimes it can be quite jarring when I'm on set and people are pandering and like, can I get you anything? Or like, what do you need? We'll work around your schedule. And I think, that's really, I don't know if like I'm a people pleaser, but actually I am a people pleaser, let's be honest. But it almost feels uncomfortable because I've been
saying
giving.
You're a people pleaser. I think that you've got a lot of like empathy and like room and can hold space for people. Yes. But I also think you're quite selective as well with like the energy that you know, give and
100%.
stuff. So I think you're pretty good at like, I never feel like interact with you or see you in situations where it feels like you give up yourself, because I think in some sense when you give up yourself is when you kind of go more into that people pleaser thing.
No, I appreciate that, my love. That's so beautiful. No, but I think you're right. Like I am a very empathetic person, which obviously I went into nursing, so like you'd have to be an empathetic person to do something as hectic as cancer care. But I think that comes into play with my friendships and especially with work and things like that.
And so when you started like full-time modeling, do you feel like your relationship with like your body and kind of like sense of self changed, or if any like positive, negative, like either, way, like how did that impact you as like a person and like your identity?
Yeah, I think when I first started, I was and still am very confident, very sure of myself, 100%. When I first started modeling, I knew that I wanted to be the representation for the bigger girls, and I have very thick skin. So I was like, I'm happy to cop the brunt of it. I don't know what's coming, but someone's going to say something or something's going to happen, but I'm ready to cop it for the rest of the girls. I want the rest of the girls to feel comfortable and confident and see something in me that's reflective of themselves. But I think if I'm being truly transparent, as time has gone on, I think it's worn down at me chip by chip. And it's gotten to the point where currently I feel like I've almost had to continuously fit myself into a mold or fit myself into somewhere where I'm not welcome. And it is very hard sometimes to keep that same energy, because I think that energy is all well and good, but it's a very out of body experience where it's like I'm a person and I also have feelings and emotions and I also have insecurities, no matter how thick the skin. So I think it's definitely worn down at me a little bit, but it's more of a matter of, rather than letting it consume me, find ways of like adapting or weaving between it, because you work in an industry that is solely looks based. You know what I mean? That's gonna be hard on anyone, no matter how thick your skin is. So it's definitely something that I'm like learning to grasp, I guess. But I think it's something no one will ever 100% be a hold of.
Oh my God, 100%. And I feel like I can so relate in terms of, I think when you first enter any kind of like industry, you obviously have so much energy because everything is so new.
Yeah.
And you're just so excited to explore and prove yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like even with me when it comes to say like race, I am working in the Australian space and that I don't even know, probably especially this year and last year.
Yeah.
That it's not necessarily you feel like you're running out of steam.
Yeah.
But it's also exhausting having to constantly try and show people the vision or like sell yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And obviously we're in a space where, like you said, it's very semi-superficial, you know?
Absolutely.
But I think it's only when you kind of like, I feel like you don't realize like how tired you are and how much energy it actually takes to be like, hey, look, like I'm not just this box, or potentially even, I guess, like how, like I feel like in the past I've had clients and I know, why do I sound so, I know.
Girl, I know.
But I've had clients before have me on set in campaigns to tick a box.
Oh, girl, yes.
And it's like, for the most part, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm here to get my coin.
Period.
But then sometimes when I really dissect it, I'm like, you're like, oh, actually, no, that probably did do something to me, like internally. Like how, like, have you ever had moments like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I can always tell the clients that are genuine versus the client that has me there to tick a box. Do you know what I mean? Because it's almost like you have like the fat girl, you have the skinny girl, and you have the black girl, and that's like the iconic trio. You know what I mean? And that's really the blueprint, I feel like, sometimes to ticking a box. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think sometimes on set, I notice that a lot where I'm getting pushed in the background or to the side, not in the middle. And I'm not even saying like, oh, I need to be front and center, but also like, I need to be front and center.
Oh my gosh, it's my face card.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling them.
When you switch, she'll be like, and then it's like, Marvel, and she's like,
yeah, she'll be like,
and those eyes.
The eyes, baby.
Oh.
But yeah, you can definitely tell. And you're so right in saying, I think a lot of the time I go to set and I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, I'm here to get my money.
You disassociate.
Yes.
With, like, not all the time, but with just some jobs in terms of just, like, protecting yourself.
Otherwise, it just makes for a shit day. It sucks when you actually really like look into it. You're like, oh, this is not great and this doesn't feel good to be here. You can't, because then it shows, and you're here to do a job, whether you got hired for genuine reasons or not. But I think it always hits me maybe not even the day after, like maybe a couple weeks, or like even when the stuff comes out, when the content comes out, you're like, it felt so much different on the day. Like, oh, I thought there's, I was there for a full day and I'm in 2 pictures. Cool. Like, great.
Love.
Yeah. So
we laugh and it's I'm sorry.
Well, the thing I find with this industry is that you've got to walk this constant line of like, yeah, but like, I'm grateful. Like, I'm so lucky and I'm so grateful, because we are. There's like, we're living in answered prayers. Do you know what I mean? Like, baby us dreamed of this. Baby us dreamed of this. But also it is kind of fucked. It does kind of suck sometimes, and it has such an effect. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel that there's space for you to like advocate for yourself, and what does that even like look like, you know? Because I feel like sometimes when I'm on set, I'm pretty like bad at that I just kind of like, not clock out, but I'm just like, whatever.
I get like that also, where I'm just like, even though it's me, I'm like, oh, it's got nothing to do with me, because it's not my brand, it's not my vision. I'm there to be a human model. I mean, yeah, human mannequin.
No.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
But I do find it hard sometimes, especially when it comes to things not fitting. I think I'm also tired of people. I'm a big girl. I got big feet. I got a big body. I got big bust. So sometimes it's really annoying when people are like, oh, just try it on, like it should fit. And you're sitting there and you're like, I'm telling you, girl, right now, it's not going to zip up. I think I've really disassociated and just like, you can find out the hard way. You know what I mean? But I am pretty bad at advocating for myself. If I'm being so honest, like shoes that don't fit, I'll be like, like whatever you want. Or something about my hair or whatever. I'm just like, great, no worries. So I think it's something constantly, again, learning. Like it's definitely not linear. Some days you have really good days and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then other days you're like, oh, I'll just do whatever you want. But I think there's also, I don't know about you, but I sometimes struggle with the stereotype of a diva. We love being a diva. Yes, a diva's hot.
Speak on this. What do you mean
tell
by
me.
that?
Sometimes I get nervous on set if I do speak up, that it's going to be like, oh, she's being a diva, or like, she's too hard to deal with. She's got too many things. So I think I try to, again, fit myself into this mold of like, yep, like I'll do whatever you'd like. I don't mind. To be easy and just be an easy person to work with. But I think that compromises a lot of like what I want and who I am and what I need. Yeah.
I guess also that's probably, it's interesting also for me doing content creation and modeling. Modeling came first and then content creation like kind of came second. But I think that the modeling world kind of feeds on that in terms of like, I think even with agencies and stuff, depending what agency you're with.
Yeah.
But they feed on the power dynamic of the girls feeling like, obviously, yes, you do. I do think I do love having an agency and having other people that have my back.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of agents and agencies create, not talking about every other agency that we're with, like we love them, but create an imbalance for the girls to feel like they need the approval of their agency and agent. And then also whilst on jobs, I think sometimes it's hard that if you haven't potentially gotten that like backing of being like fucking Naomi Campbell or something like that, where it's like, okay, I'm bringing the audience to you, that to kind of keep control
absolutely
and, over girls and whatnot. It's like, you don't want to be the model that like complains.
And it's also like, everyone's replaceable. No, but like, it's one of those things where, well, you know what? Let's just talk about pay for a second.
Oh, girl.
Let's just talk about rates.
Let's talk about pay.
We're getting into it.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do it, guaranteed, babe, there's going to be a talent that's going to do it for way less. If they're not paying your rate, or if it's not financially what you're asking for, then you either say yes and you get the money, or someone else is going to do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's this weird...
How have you been dealing with that recently? Because I feel like I've had like a lot of private conversations, and obviously at the moment, I don't even want to say the R word, but we're in a, and like, but I feel definitely within the Australian space, there's like a lot of like hits to, big campaigns that usually, when it comes to the usage, that's how, models would really make their money. Whereas now it's like cool that obviously the space is like open and say content creation. Yeah. But it also creates like a weird dynamic, because then, and I say this from like a privileged position of being someone who for the last, 4 or 5 years has been represented with an agency, but then also it's hard when sometimes people come into the mix and they're like, well, I'll do it for a quarter of the price, and then it kind of just like messes up. It
almost like devalues the hard work and the effort and the that goes into it. And you're right, like, we are in an R word, and the budget has gone down, and companies and brands are going into liquidation. Like, I've had 2 clients that have gone under, like 2 of my regulars. So it's like, not only is that impacting them and their full-time employees and their stores, it's also like impacting me as like a contractor worker and things like that. So, and the harsh truth of it all is that the first thing to go when there's budget cuts is the curve division, 100%. Yeah. So, it's like really interesting to watch it unfold. It's not interesting in a good way. It's just like, oh, this is happening right now.
100%. And I think I like, even with AI models and stuff, and that becoming more of a thing. Okay, girl, I'm watching you.
Okay, robot. I see.
Are you sure you can do this? A fake.
Okay, 8 fingers.
I see. But like, damn, it feels like no one is safe.
No one is safe. Okay. Like, not only is AI coming for your factory jobs, AI is coming for your creative jobs. AI is driving your car. AI is coming for us.
Like, what is the point? So we're trying to replace, human, like, what would even be the word? Like, human production, human,
or like
I'm not against AI. Like, recently I have been using ChatGPT when I've, one of my friends was like, I actually use, like, I have a therapist, and I also sometimes, like, if I get a message and I'm like, I want to decode this, or I just want, like, sometimes I feel like when recently been using ChatGPT in this way, that it feels like 5 conversations that I usually would have with different friends, but it just summarizes different points that most of like different friends would make.
Yeah, it's a lot more concise.
A lot more concise, and I'll be like, oh yeah, and like already things that I was thinking. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
But then in terms of like the fashion space, I also love. Do you remember like a couple of years ago when Mugler would do those like, I don't know if it was during COVID, but they would do those like campaign catwalk like videos and stuff. And
Yeah.
there was one where it was like Hunter
Schaefer. Yeah.
And then she's like walking backwards and stuff, and
So
Bella,
sick.
like
Yeah.
like in terms of that and
Yeah.
the possibilities of like adding to the creative like aspect, I'm like, oh cool. And you know, like having that digital but human, I'm like sick. But if you're coming for our jobs and using AI and robots to replace models,
Yeah, I'm good on that. I'm so good.
I'm so good.
And it's also like, I feel like AI is scary when there's no human input. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think this whole thing with AI models at the moment is like we are struggling to show diversity or advocate for diversity as is, and AI generates things off of, I'm not an expert.
We're not experts.
No, I'm not a tech. No.
But also we're in the industry and we observe things.
Absolutely. But AI generates things based off of past content, right? So I wonder if we're just going to start seeing the same thing and replicating, I don't know, God forbid, the same skinny, tall, like 6-foot white model. I don't know, like if diversity is going to play a role in that. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also being in such a digital age, and I feel like we can speak upon this in terms of how social media has also impacted like your career. It kind of feels like in some ways we're being spoon-fed a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it feels like you have to actively give your brain, like, not consume so much technology and just like media to give yourself a chance to be like, actually, what do I think? You know, how do I view the world?
You're right.
And I feel like it's only even though I'm legit not doing that, but it's only recently I've been like, fuck, I probably do need at times like, you know, social detox and in turn, like even within the Australian space, I sometimes like look at campaigns and it feels like we just kind of do the same thing. I guess maybe we also don't have the budget or the people to explore those like very creative or just try something new. Like it feels, what I'm trying to say is it feels like there's just formulas that we have at the moment.
100%.
And AI and social media really amplifies that, you know, and the content that we watch and the creators that kind of like, you know, push to the forefront, and that also translates with like models, and it kind of feels like we're just like making duplicates of people rather than having a space where we can just discover something that's new and different.
Because I feel like you're so right. I've had that thought recently as well, where I'm like, I don't know if I've generated an original thought for a while. Do you know what I mean? Even in terms of trends online or things, I don't know. I feel like we're all watching the same TV shows. I won't lie, I've been dodging White Lotus spoilers all day.
God,
I haven't watched it.
No, me too.
I haven't watched it.
I haven't. I was like out for coffee just then, and someone was like saying something about White Lotus, and I was like, don't.
Yeah, I was like, no.
Yeah,
I've been dodging.
I still need to watch
all day.
Yeah,
but yeah, I feel like I haven't had an original thought in so long because it's definitely like, well, I don't know, we're all consuming the same things, and I think social media is such an echo chamber.
Trying to control us.
Yeah, no, but like low key, me with my tinfoil hat on, I'm like, conspiracy.
But no, they are.
I mean, yeah.
And you even like, obviously we're going like not off topic, but like even when the US elections quite a few years ago, and things came out about information that was being spread online about that and stuff. And like, I think we like to think that we're not so easily influenced.
Yes.
But we actually
are. Very. Yeah, absolutely. And I am the first to say that I'm not going to see something online and then go fact check it. I'm not going to go cross-reference it. I'm going to like I watch a TikTok and say that I read that in a book somewhere. I'll be like, guys, I was watching the news the other night and this is what I heard. No, Diva, that was from TikTok. Like,
no, literally.
Yeah,
all
so
the time.
It's very easy just to get like swept in that current of what's trending, what's going on. Yeah, it's so challenging.
It's very challenging. So you said that when you like first started modeling, or like before you got into the industry, you had like 200 followers. How do you think social media has like impacted, you know, your career as a model? Because even I always think we obviously have these like icons that we think of like Kate Moss and Naomi Campbell and Christy Turlington and blah 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 blah. Sorry, blah blah blah.
Blah, la, la, la.
But yeah, they obviously didn't have that back then. You know, like everything was so much more different. How has social media impacted?
I feel like being a model in a non-digital age, like all those girls, I feel like that would be the dream, to be honest. And I think social media gives us a platform to create a bigger reach. And I'm grateful that I have followers from all across the world. But in saying that, I find, we were just saying before that like being a model, it's hard to switch off. I feel like this, particularly the online space, I find it even harder to switch off because people are awake all hours of the night, your phone's going off. Whether I can't really pick the difference to when I'm on my phone for leisurely scrolling versus working and picking references and being like, what's she doing? What are they doing?
What's trending?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like really hard to turn off because one way or another, it's always involved with work. But anyone who knows me and anyone who follows me knows that I have a tumultuous relationship with social media because one week I'm posting every single day and then I've ghosted for 4 months.
No, literally.
And like that's not even an exaggeration. Yeah. I feel like last year was the worst for me in the sense that I just went MIA for months at a time, and although that probably wasn't the best thing work-wise and career progression, because the thing is with social media is that you have to constantly be on it and it's all about consistency, and the algorithm rewards you if you're consistent.
I don't even know now. I feel like I question it. Like I just think the algorithm is constantly changing. And I feel like I love the aspect of collaborating with like, you know, good friends and, you know, and I guess sometimes when you're a model, it's more you're bringing someone else's vision to life and they have a lot of control compared to like when you are doing content creation, they want you to bring your creative like outlook and aspects on it.
Yeah.
But now I just feel like the algorithm's really weird. Maybe for me.
No, but for me too. And going back to what you said actually just then about content creation and having your own personal flair on it, I think sometimes my issue with social media is I don't so much struggle with, we were talking about self-comparison. I don't so much struggle comparing myself to other people, but it's more just like I put a lot of pressure on myself. And so when it comes to creative vision, I have a very specific vision and then I want to execute that. And I guess when it doesn't perform well, you've poured your whole heart and soul into this thing that you love, that you've spent so much time and effort and devotion on and money. Let's just say that. Like
us girls be having the production team here.
We have production value, Diva. So when it doesn't perform well, it's so hard not to take that personally. You know what I
mean? 100%. And even you saying that, like, I feel like recently I've been like wigging out and I've been like, maybe my days as a content creator, I don't know, like I always like content creator, that phrase, and I was like, I don't know if I'm, but anyway, maybe my days of working in that space are like limiting or something like that. But it kind of also goes back to you being a child, you know, and I think that sure you can like 100% I know that I have me and like the people that know me know what is actually really important to me, but it also plays on you and like your confidence. I think it's
absolutely
like natural, you know, and I feel like
Yeah.
people don't talk about that a lot, but it's very
absolutely. And I think for me as well, like social media is such a highlight reel, and that's such a corny thing to say, but it is so true. And whether you intentionally do it or not, it still happens. Like I've had this conversation with my agents, shout out, often, and a lot of people say that you have such an infectious personality and like you're so charismatic and like you should talk online, things like that. But honestly, I think that's where I draw the line in terms of like my content, because who I am as a person and my personality and my humor is truly the only thing that I have left that isn't publicized on the internet. Do you know what I mean? Like I sell my body, you know what I mean? Like I'm the things like that, my look, everything. So I think that's something that I just have for myself and for my close friends, and that one part of me that's just like, oh, this is for me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God, 100%. I was also having this similar conversation with like a good friend a couple of weeks ago, that obviously we're in this like, you know, space of storytelling and like digital age and people sharing. But there's also this like, my friend made this point of like, she feels that in the future what is actually going to be the most valuable is like our digital, our personalities and stuff, and like our stories as like humans.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because there's only like, AI can only generate so much. Like the human experience is what it's lacking.
Yeah.
And what I think it will always lack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard this thing a while ago that it was like how people are going to be able to trump AI is by having good taste. Like you can't buy good taste.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I also think like using socials, we're so privileged and have all these opportunities.
Yeah.
But sometimes it also feels like it kind of plays on the craft. That sometimes you're like, well, I actually would much rather just knuckle down and just like do the job.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just kind of like I can relate in terms of like when I'm on socials, because it's also part of my work.
Yeah.
That I'm not just on socials. I'm like viewing things in a different way of like, oh, how is this post performing? What's trending? And it kind of sometimes can really just like,
it takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
It really does. And I mean, even starting with 200 followers, like I was never a social media girl. I deleted my Instagram like 5 times in high school because I was like, I don't need you guys knowing what I'm doing. Like, that's for me.
Mysterious queen. But like the epitome. But like legit.
No, but I feel like I have this aura of like, I'm going to remain mysterious. And then I sit with you one-on-one and I'm like, so guys, this is everything I'm thinking and feeling. I'm going to tell you the deepest, darkest secrets. Because when I'm in person, unfiltered, it's word vomit, it's coming out.
100%. And also, I think I've always struggled with like short form content and stuff. And I think it's like you can only really translate a highlight reel online, I think, compared to like, I love having this podcast because then I can have longer form conversations.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes, obviously, I like do little snippets and I post it online.
Of course.
And
that's marketing, mama. That's marketing.
Yeah, she's a marketing guru trying to be one. But people might take it out of context or be like, oh, they just see a snippet of you. But but the people who are the real ones, you know, if they actually want to know who you are, then they're going to listen to this hour-long podcast that's going to give you way more insight compared to like a 2-minute video talking about my deepest, darkest secrets. Like, oh, that feels too like...
Yeah. And so much gets missed in short-form content. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying like I'm pouring like the essence of who I am is locked in this podcast, but a lot of it I'm giving you guys a lot. Do you know what I mean?
It's a timestamp of just
absolutely.
What you are right now.
Which is actually really beautiful. That's a really beautiful thing.
I know. That's always what I think, you know, like when I go back sometimes and listen to things and go, oh my God, it was that particular time. It's a time. It's like a little, what are those things that they like
A time capsule.
A time capsule, you know, of
love that.
who we are and what we're experiencing now. What do you kind of like hope for the future and like kind of on the horizon for your...
What is in store for me?
Not necessarily like, oh, what jobs you have.
Yeah.
But more, I guess, you know, you've been in this space for some time, and I think naturally you have different like internal shifts of how you interact with the job and what you, you know, see for yourself.
I want to go overseas. I think it's time.
1,000%.
And don't get me wrong, guys. I've been waiting on my US visa for too long.
Anyone who works at the US.
Yeah, shout out to immigration.
Please, like,
hit me up. Put my name on the top of the pile, please. Like, it's been almost 12 months, my love.
Shit.
Which I think, not to get too deep, has rocked me a little bit, because I think 12 months ago, I was like, sweet, give me a couple months. I'll be in the US. I'll be so, like, the progression. There'll be a lot going on. Very stagnant right now. So I want to go overseas. I'm going to London towards the end of the year, which I'm very excited about. And I haven't been overseas at all for work. So I'm really interested to see what's in store for that and how it differs from the Australian market, because it's all well and good to sit here and say that the Australian market is closed-minded, that's my experience, but I haven't had experience anywhere else. So I'm not sure if it's going to be more open. I want to do more creative director work. I want to do more. I just want to do more.
Also, I think I told you this, but I messaged Hamish and I loved the CK photos.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like,
aren't they good?
They were so stunning. And like, I'll link Kaitlyn's Instagram, but the one of you like on the street and like walking, like that was so cool.
Yeah. And it feels really good to have the opportunity to be able to use that creative direction on social media and on my platform, because otherwise without it, like we wouldn't have a space to do that. Do you know what I mean? Or it would be so much harder to execute your thoughts and visions. And so it's lucky, and I feel lucky and I feel grateful that I have a little space where I can do that, and then whatever comes from it, you know, eventually bigger productions if that's what I want, or if that's 100%. In my future.
And I think as much as we've like spoken about socials being what it is, but I think it also gives you the space to show people what else you can do, because obviously like we're talking about people putting you in boxes and kind of just seeing you in this specific way, but then you being able to creative direct your own shoot for a brand that you know like, with creatives and creators that you are aligned with, then it just means that you've got like that sort of like imagery. Like,
well, I mean, like, we've literally been sitting here shitting on social media for the past 45 minutes.
Like, oh, wait.
Actually, we're so lucky and blessed.
But it's like anything in life.
It's a roller coaster, my love.
Nothing's ever perfect. And I also think as well, it's only been in the past, like fully like 10, 15 years or something, where this whole internet, World Wide Web thing has kind of taken over our whole lives. And I think that we don't talk about it. Well, we talk about it a lot, but we don't talk about it enough in terms of subconsciously. There's so many things that our brains are being reprogrammed. Even I hear that like in the future that like humans, like our thumbs are going to look different.
Well, I've even noticed, so our pinkies, right? So I hold my phone with my pinky, right? And I've got like a little divot where my phone.
I think mine also looks like that as well.
Like, so like little things, like, isn't that weird that our bodies are morphing? Our
bodies are morphing to make space for this device that we've like...
You know what I've noticed as well? I carry my, like, even when I'm in my house, my phone is in my hand. If I'm moving rooms, the phone is coming with me.
So
subconsciously,
crazy.
Like, I've got nothing to do with it. I'm not going to do it, but I'm always like, I just need to have it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
Oh my God, 100%. Even if I go for a walk, like, I feel like it's even kind of like a safety thing for me. I feel a little bit unsafe if I don't have my phone with me, but it's like, that is pretty fucking crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even when, like, watching episodes of Sex and the City, they didn't have that. They had like the big block phones or the phones at home.
Yeah.
You know, like and I remember, I feel like I always ask people this, so I go, well, what did you do when you were making plans and you didn't have a phone? Like, you could
write a letter, like send it in a pigeon?
Yeah.
Like, what?
They would just be like, well, just set a time and you would just hope that that person would turn up. And if you sat there for 30 minutes and they didn't come, you'd be like, okay, I guess this isn't working, which is wild to me.
That's wild because I would get so cut.
Yeah.
I'm a very 0 to 100 person. So if you leave me hanging for 30 minutes, I'm cutting you off. Like, that's it. Do you know what I mean? I don't care if the landline is ringing off the hook. I'm not home, diva. I'm at the spot.
You're like, it's done.
Yeah, it's done. We're done.
But yeah, I'm excited for you to go overseas and just kind of, it feels like it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
And do you ever feel this where you're like, I feel like I have so much more to give, and you hope that you can just be in environments where you're just kind of like more celebrated and seen, and also I said this to someone, actually I think this morning when I ran into what I was saying, but you don't just want to be this box to be ticked off.
Yeah.
But you're a human, you're a fully formed person with complexities and you know, like lights and shade. And just as much as, say, the industry gives space to people who in the past have kind of always been put in a position to thrive, it's like you want that same light and that same kind of like room to be.
Absolutely.
And stuff. I think that's like the main thing. And especially, I see you as Kaitlyn, you know, I see you as just Kaitlyn.
Yeah.
You know, Kaitlyn
as the person,
who's a baddie.
Period.
Yeah, she a baddie.
No, but I know exactly what you mean. Like, at the end of the day, and it sounds so deep, but it is true. We're all people.
You're on the Taylor podcast. We're all about deepness.
Yeah. Depth of the ocean here.
Yeah.
We're people. Do you know what I mean? My feelings are just as valid as someone who isn't in front of the camera, and I still have reactions and emotional reactions to things that happen in front of and without the camera and all of these things. Like, it's hard to navigate, and I think we all need to give each other a little bit more empathy.
1,000%. And say people like, Ashley Graham, but it's like we need more people in those spaces, and even who else do I? Paloma?
Yes. Paloma El Cessa, I think her last name is.
Did you watch her AD house?
Yeah, insane. I can only dream.
She was on a podcast, or when Emrata had her podcast.
Yeah.
She came on, and I already was a fan of her and like followed her. But she's like cool.
She's so cool. Sick. She is so sick.
She's cool.
And I love that she just does whatever.
She just does. Yeah, she doesn't like prescribe to like what a model should be. Obviously she a model, but like she like looking at her house and stuff, like I was like, oh my gosh, she is someone who has lived a rich and and range of different lives, and even that podcast episode that I listened to her sort of, you know, she was like, oh, I was living in LA and then I moved to New York and then I went through this and I needed to have a break. It's like, fuck, I love that.
And I really respect the fact that she is Paloma and then she is a model. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it's very easy to put your title or your job or your career in replacement of identity. Who you are. Yeah. And that's really hard when you're someone that's super passionate about what you do. But I think she does such a good job at being like, no, I'm a human and this is who I am, and that is just what I do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, I so can relate to that, because I think sometimes, even especially when I first started, that I can fall under the trap of like my job being
oh, even now I still get so caught up, like, you know? And I think I'm such a workaholic, which I find it hard to switch off myself. Do you know what I mean? I think in my head, am I Kaitlyn or am I the workaholic girl?
100%. Okay, I always love to end the podcast with the same set of questions.
Okay. Is it like rapid fire? Or
Yeah, I say that, but you can answer it.
okay, I'll take my time.
Yeah.
You can cut this out. Cut out the silences.
But okay, if you had a dinner party,
Yeah.
living or dead, and you could have 2 guests, who would they be?
Oh my god, diva.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I feel like obviously we've been talking about Ashley Graham this whole time. She's been my lock screen since I was 13. Right? No brainer.
Love. I feel like you're gonna meet her. I just see it.
You know what? I envision, like, I'm going to manifest this right here, right now on the pod. I can see myself, like, I don't know, Milan Fashion Week or something, and I'm in the lineup of all the girls, and then I turn around, and Bestie Girl's like, actually, no. I look in front of me, and Bestie Girl's walking in front of me. Do you know what I mean? Like, we'll just be in the lineup, and I'll be like, gagged. I'll be, oh my god, Ash babes.
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, Ashley Graham. And my second person, I would want to... Oh, diva, I don't know. Wait, who are yours?
I can't remember. I feel like I've said it before, but
Okay.
this is not about me. It's about you.
Me trying to dodge the question?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to say Ashley and I'm going to say Paloma because we're going to have a key. We're going to have a girls' time.
Oh my god,
We're
that
going to
would
have
be
some
the
wine.
best. I would want to be a fly on
And
the
I feel like we
wall.
would just chat shit.
It would be like great, like conversationalists.
I think,
you
and
know?
I think both those women are so intellectual in their own rights as well that it would be just such
Their
a beautiful
brains
conversation.
and their everything.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's my answer.
Okay, I love. Okay, if you had one day to live, what would be your last meal?
Xiaolong bao dumplings.
What?
Soup dumplings.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm like,
Yeah.
as common as, please just tell me. Like, shalom dumplings.
Xiaolong bao. Soup dumplings are like actually
I'm
dumplings
obsessed.
in general are like truly my favorite thing. Like
The grace that you have, I feel like you just kind of exude this. Like, I feel like you in the past life were like a queen of something.
yeah,
or
I was definitely royalty.
Yeah, no, I feel that hardcore. Okay.
No, dumplings for sure.
Love.
Ride or die. Chinese food, Asian food.
Oh my god! Actually, when you're in the States, when you're in New York, you
Yeah.
like you go to Chinatown because they do like best soup dumplings.
I'm so excited.
Oh.
And cheap? Question mark?
Cheap.
Like, is it cheap?
The food?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You can get that.
You're like,
Crickets. You're like,
no, I was confused.
no, because like the way I said it, I was like, cheap?
Although at the moment, I feel like with all the tariffs and stuff, I've been hearing
Girl, tariffs.
it's also fine. Not us getting all like adulty here.
Yeah,
but
I was talking about the
politics, like you
the
know,
current climate,
rates, like
yeah.
everything.
yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Oh, that's really beautiful. I love that question.
Yeah.
I think the best piece of advice, I think maybe I gave this to myself. Obviously not, I heard it somewhere, but it is something that I live by and it is fake it till you make it. And I think that can be taken the wrong way, but I think it's one of those things where it's like almost a form of manifestation where it's like, if you just believe that you are that person and if you just act like that person and you are that bitch, then eventually you will become that bitch.
Oh my
Do you know
God,
what I mean?
100%.
And I think that's 100% how I started. And whenever I'm feeling low, that's what I'm doing. I'm
my God.
faking it, which isn't as problematic as it sounds.
No, I don't think that
Yeah.
like that's just so true. And there's
Yeah.
just so many things that in this career space, so many things that you get thrown like at
Things thrown at you.
and you're like, I don't know how to do that, but you're like, I'm just gonna figure it out.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Like, I can.
Yeah. And it goes back to a confidence thing. Like, have confidence in yourself, trust yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't actually believe it, just fake it for the meantime, because I guarantee you it will become your reality very soon.
Do you feel like you like what? This isn't the last question, but what is like your relationship to, your like intuition?
Ooh.
Yeah, I feel like you would have very good intuition.
I do. I feel like I can read.
I love that. I do.
I do.
Yeah.
I feel like I can read energy really well. I can pick up on
What's
energy.
your star sign again?
I'm a Sagittarius.
Yes, we had this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Saggy sun, Pisces moon, Gemini rising.
I feel like that totally explains you.
It makes total sense because deep down, she's an emotional baby, but on the outside, walls are up. I'm good. I keep it moving.
Yeah. She keeps it moving.
Yeah.
She really does.
Put that on my tombstone.
Yeah.
Put that on my tombstone.
My aunt's a Sag, and like so many, I've got like 2 other friends. Girlfriends that are Sag. Sag women are like a force.
100%. And I feel like I attract Saggies. A lot of like the closest people in my life are Saggies or fire signs. So it's like such a blessing.
Intuition.
Yeah. I definitely have a strong gut feeling. I wouldn't say I always follow it because I do second guess it a lot. Do you know what I mean? It's hard. I think I'm a very intuitive person, but I'm always like, am I reading too much into this? Or like, am I second guessing, blah, blah, blah. But I think at the end of the day, if it makes you feel gross, girl, it's not worth your time.
Oh, 1,000%.
You know what I mean? If you're forcing it, it's not it. It's, And I can tell you in hindsight. Yeah.
No, 100%. But I think also in school, you know, we're like taught things like maths and science and kind of like very logic, facts. But I feel like when it comes to the spiritual realm and things like intuition, it's like obviously just more something that you can feel but you can't see.
Yeah.
That whole like world has not been tapped into.
Explored.
And so a lot of the times, unless you're actively being... Obviously now people are like very encouraging in terms of like, you know, exploring what intuition means to you.
Yeah.
But unless you grow up in that kind of environment or like having people constantly reminding you.
Yeah. Well, you're left to discover that on your own. And a lot of the time it's going to be a hard way that you discover it if it's not something that's taught or encouraged at a young age. So... I don't know. I think like if you have the ability to have conversations about it, do it because like you said, it's not taught.
No.
Yeah.
And lastly, if you had one message to spread to the world and our podcast listeners, what would it be?
Ooh.
What is it?
Hire me.
Yeah, you should.
Book me.
Yeah.
Not that, but also like that.
But also like I'm just so excited to see you with like working, like not saying in the Australian space that we don't have people who are great at their job. They are like so amazing. Like and especially being in Sydney, I think it's a really amazing hub for creatives. But I think just us growing up in Australia, we look overseas for inspiration, and Australia's always relying on what is happening overseas, and you see these like huge productions and concepts, and I'm so excited to like see you in those visions, you know?
I appreciate that. Yeah. And I do have one thing to say, me looking down the barrel of the camera.
Yeah.
I feel like in Australia, we have such an issue with tall poppy syndrome.
We do.
Which I think is why even I have the reflection of like we were talking about cockiness versus confidence. At the end of the day, no one is going to root for you the way that you root for yourself. No one is going to ride for you the way that you ride for yourself. So it's like you might as well own it. You know what I mean? If you're accomplishing things, celebrate them. If you want something, talk about it. Go for it. Don't dim yourself.
Yeah, because definitely here it's like uncool to be like,
right?
I did this.
So I think that's why I'm so openly like, yeah, babe, book me, because I don't know, tall poppy stuff. I'm trying to get rid of that.
Oh my God. Well, I feel like you definitely thrive in America because it's all about that.
Good.
It's all about
the ego.
Yeah. Well, not the ego, but like it's all about.
Girl, I'm a big girl with a big ego. Okay.
It's all about just like advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think as well, that's politically and in the world, that's why America is like, you know, because they go, I did this.
Yeah, unapologetic.
They're like, they want to take up space.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest thing of like.
Take up space. Take up space. Take up space.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This was an amazing conversation.
No, this has really filled my cup.
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy. I feel like from like, but also that's the thing, you coming on, like I'd been like thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I already had the questions in my head and I just knew that it would flow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even with 100%. My technical
difficulties.
Yes. It was on. As soon as he said
it was on.
Play, record.
Yeah.
It was
that
on.
little red button. She's on Diva.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, my
I love
love.
you so much.
I love you. Thank
Bye,
you guys.
guys.
Mwah.